Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei becomes the Monarch of Shadows Part 4, Chapter 17. The Strongest Rival, Third Person POV, Dragons. The dragon is a reptilian creature that is from many worldwide cultures and folklore. Beliefs about dragons vary considerably through regions, but dragons from Western cultures since the High Middle Ages have often been depicted as winged, horned, and capable of breathing fire. Dragons from Eastern cultures are usually depicted as wingless four-legged serpentine creatures with above-average intelligence. Commonalities between dragons' traits are often a hybridization of feline, reptilian and avian features. Dragons are powerful supernatural beings, considered the strongest aside from the gods themselves, admired, respected, and feared no matter the era. Among the supernatural, dragons, as an entire race, didn't side with anyone from the three factions during the Great War, different from fairies, spirits, European monsters, Asian monsters, and humans. In certain cultures and different parts of the world, dragons are also known to be worshipped as gods. Dragons are said to be creatures born from a large mass of power, who acts based on their desires, acting freely and selfishly, while having a high amount of intelligence. Theorized that the reason that dragons are so powerful is because their pure thoughts compel them to devote themselves towards their goals. Dragons are meant to live according to their will. All dragons have pride in themselves, declaring their titles as a formal greeting or in response to accepting a challenge to a duel between other dragons or heroes. The dragons are divided into many different classes. There are the normal dragons, the dragon kings which are above the normal dragons, the heavenly dragons which are above the dragon kings, and the true dragon and dragon god, the highest class of dragons. The true dragons are a class that solely belongs to a single dragon, though it is only a subclass that belongs to another one, the dragon god class. Dragon gods are basically dragons who have the power to rival gods, respected and feared by any supernatural being. The mere mention of their name can send shivers down even the strongest of beings, since even they wouldn't be able to face a dragon god. The 5 great dragon kings are a group of 5, previously 6, unique dragons recognized for their strength and nobility. Their highly destructive powers rival those of ultimate class devils or even the 4 great satans. Next was the high-level dragons, which was a dragon class that belongs to regular dragons who have great power, though still beneath the dragon kings. Low-level dragons were basically in the same league as the high-level ones, the only difference is that the high-level ones were stronger and more respected. The evil dragons were a special case, they were a group of dragons who are known for their particular vicious temperament, as the most vicious and brutal among all dragons. Most of them are dangerous battle maniacs who want to destroy everything including themselves, causing them to be referred to as broken dragons. As such, in the past, evil and malevolent gods were among the few beings who are able to control evil dragons. Outside of their vicious nature, evil dragons, more so legendary ones, are noted to be incredibly powerful, wielding power that exceeds the 5 great dragon kings. Evil dragons are difficult to handle, as a result of it being possible for them to revive themselves, as long as a part of their soul remains. However, this often takes a large amount of time. The final and the most feared class of dragons, besides the dragon gods, were the 2 heavenly dragons. They were dragons with powers that can kill both gods and satans, and are considered to be one of the highest class of dragons, superior to dragon kings, but inferior to dragon gods. The 2 heavenly dragons were the white dragon emperor, Albion. An enormous white western dragon described as having a beautiful pure white body, he has blue eyes, 2 golden horns, and unlike most western dragons, he had feathered wings. Albion was an invincible dragon and was notably feared for his venomous ability which can even kill gods easily, and due to this fearful power, he was always lonely and resented using it. Although overwhelmingly powerful, Albion was depressed due to having no equal to stand up against him until he met his soon-to-be arch-rival, a being who was immune to his venom. The name of Albion's rival was the Red Dragon Emperor, Drake. He was an enormous red western dragon with gray horns, green eyes, a light brown underbelly, and a long red whip-like tail. Just like Albion, Drake was a fearsome dragon known to have powerful flames that can incinerate anything, including gods, and will never go out till they burn the opponents to ashes. Drake eventually met Albion, who was immune to his flames. Both happy to meet someone who can rival each other, Drake and Albion sealed their powers and started to compete with each other to improve themselves, developing techniques, and both eventually became famous as the 2 heavenly dragons. The 2 faced each other numerous times, neither seemingly being able to get the upper hand on the other one. But they did not give up, they would continue facing each other whenever they sensed the other's presence. This has resulted in much destruction throughout the world, but no supernatural being dares to get between the 2 dragons' battles. Their endless conflict ended them both in the middle of the Great War, a battle between heaven and hell. As the 2 mighty reptiles fought, the 3 factions decided to team up together, or else they might get killed in the crossfire of Drake and Albion's battle. In the end, they were able to take them both down. To make sure that peace prospered, the two heavenly dragons were sealed into two sacred gears. The first was a gauntlet known as the boosted gear and a pair of wings called divine dividing. Though even in death the two dragons still fought each other, this time they made their wielders battle instead of them. But now the cycle has been broken. Drake is now back in the world of the living, but the western dragon was anything but alive. Drake started down at Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, before he let out a thunderous roar that shook the very ground he, Wukong, and Issei Haidu were standing on. Sun Wukong still can't believe that Dryag Y Gotch, the western dragon of domination, was back in the land of the living sort of. His once crimson-red scales had now turned into black scales, his horns were now glowing purple, his green eyes glowed as well, and he had a purple underbelly and a long black whip-like tail. He was also acting differently than what he can remember. It was honestly a little freaky to the monkey demon. Wukong soon changed his gaze down to the one he came to face, Issei Haidu, who was a human that was meant to give him a challenge. Well, that is what the Buddha told him at least. Before Drake showed up, Wukong was a little disappointed since Issei couldn't keep up with him. But now, that has changed since he had just unleashed some strange ability that changed his appearance. He had a glowing purple helmet or a hat that resembled a jackal and a pair of purple claws that gave off an electric aura. Issei looked at the Monkey King, who had a surprised expression on his face. Wukong was definitely not expecting any of this to happen. Issei. Shall we continue? Wukong fell silent as he stared at the human before him. Well, he was surprised by the events that have just occurred. Who wouldn't be, since the person you were told about had one of the two heavenly dragons as some kind of shadow soldier. Wukong didn't think much about it since he has been wanting a good fight for many years now. He has had one since he had to take that stupid monk on his journey. A small grin formed on his face. He could feel his blood pumping in excitement. No one could really blame him since this was exactly what he has been wishing for all of his immortal life. Sun Wukong. Hell yeah. Issei narrowed his eyes as he stared down his opponent. He was still trying to wrap his head around the things that have just happened. So not only does he have to fight Sun Wukong, but turns out he had a fucking shadow dragon as a soldier. This is the main thing that had his attention since Issei never brought back a dragon. All he did bring back was Igris, the mages, and a few of the knights that were in the job change dungeon. Issei's gaze turned to the massive dragon that stood next to him, a screen appearing before him. Reg LV.20. Rank. General. Seeing the rank of the enormous dragon gained Issei's attention. Issei. General rank. That's interesting. If memory serves him correctly, Igris was only a knight rank, which must make him weaker than Dryag. That sent a shiver down the brown-haired boy's spine, because he did not eat to imagine anything or anyone stronger than Igris. That knight was the main definition of a monster, and he had the feats to prove it. The damn knight turned Issei into a ragdoll. He only managed to defeat him with pure luck. Issei. Alright, time to take this seriously. I only have 5 minutes before this form disappears. Issei silently sighed. The form he was in was the result of the S-rank item he took from a god. You have activated Judgment of Anubis. You will have the strength to unleash judgment upon your foes. Anubis, the Egyptian god of death. Throughout history, Anubis has been seen as a force of pure evil. But that wasn't the case. Anubis wasn't good, nor evil. He simply did his job, and which was to lead the souls of the dead, so they may be judged before going to the afterlife. Issei, sorry Anubis. I hope you don't get pissed at me for taking this from you. Issei knew that he was gonna need to use every amount of strength he has to defeat Sun Wukong. Even with this new form, he will have to go beyond his limit, or else he might not survive this battle. He can't die yet, he needs to survive. He promised his mother, he promised Sona, and he needs to assist Rias. Issei. I won't die here. Sun Wukong. Let's begin the games. Sun appeared in front of Issei and whacked him with his staff. The attack sent Issei flying back a good couple of meters, but the brown-haired boy was able to stop himself by shoving his clawed hands into the ground. Issei. Drag. As you command. Sun Wukong turned his attention to Drag as the shadow dragon fired a massive purple beam toward him. The Monkey King was able to dodge the attack in time, but the resulting strike caused an enormous explosion that resembled a nuclear bomb. Sun Wukong. Oh ho ho ho. Sun Wukong landed on his nimbus cloud as he grinned in amusement. Issei groaned in annoyance. He wondered where that cloud was since he has heard the stories, and in each one, Sun Wukong has a cloud he rides into battle. Issei was hoping that he wouldn't have to deal with that, but it looks like that wasn't gonna be an option. But no worries, Issei can work around this. He just needs to get Wukong off that damn cloud. Sun Wukong. Rai Jingu Bang extend. The Monkey King extended his staff as it hit Issei's stomach, and he was sent crashing into the wall. Drag. Master. The shadow dragon swiped at the Monkey King's nimbus cloud, sending him flying back before he fired another shadow blast at the demon, which resulted in another explosion. Meanwhile, Issei groaned as he laid on the ground for a moment. He soon laid up and rubbed his chest. Issei. Man, that hurt like a bitch. He stood up and rather than standing around, he decided to finally do something in this battle. In an instant, Issei began charging towards Sun Wukong, leaving behind an electric trail. Sun Wukong saw Issei heading towards him, and he used his staff to whack him on the chin, sending him into the air high up, and plunged his staff into the ground before extending it, and he was high in the air, and he kicked Issei in the air. Issei growled as his eyes started to glow purple, and electricity began to cover him as he threw his arm forward. When he did this, the claw extended forward and punched Wukong in the face. Sun Wukong. Arg. Issei used this moment to grab Wukong's shirt and pull himself toward the monkey demon. He then kicked him in the face, which sent both of them toward the ground, though Wukong took most of the damage since Issei was on top of him, and he began brutally assault the Monkey King's head. With every punch that Issei delivered to the demon, purple sparks illuminated the air around them. But this didn't last forever. Sun Wukong growled before kicking Issei off and repeatedly punching Issei in the face. But this didn't last forever. Sun Wukong growled before kicking Issei off and repeatedly punching Issei in the face. Issei growled as his eyes flashed purple. Sun Wukong's eyes widened as he was pushed back by a dark aura. This surprised him as the aura wasn't like anything he had felt before, and that was coming from him of all beings. He was the Monkey King, the one who defeated all gods that came against him. Sun Wukong. What was that aura? He watched as Issei began to stand up, small traces of the dark aura covering his body, as his eyes were glowing a menacing purple color. Sun Wukong. This is nothing I have ever seen in my entire life, but. The Monkey King got on his feet and grinned in excitement. Sun Wukong. It makes my blood boil in excitement. Wukong twirled his staff around as he got into a fighting stance. Issei did the same as he summoned both his daggers. The human and the demon stared into each other's eyes before they charged toward one another with immense speed. When they made contact with each other, they started clashing their weapons together with such speed that their arms appeared to be invisible. The two brave and strong warriors let out their mighty battle cries. Issei. Ah. Sun Wukong. Ah. As the two clashed, sparks of gold and purple flashed around them. The very landscape around them began to get destroyed and terraformed by the force of the two beings. Drake watched his master and Wukong go at it for what felt like forever, but in reality, it had only been 5 minutes. Drake. So this is my master. For someone so young, he has tons of strength and potential. A small smile grew on the former Welsh dragon's face. Maybe Issei will be the one to put an end to the destruction that shall come in the future. Drake knows what is coming because he was one part of it, but he decided to leave since he desired to grow on his own. That is why he battled against Albion so many times. He wished to get stronger than any other being so he could face the dragon gods. But now, that dream is merely a whisper in an abyss. Sun Wukong. Haiwudu. Issei. Wukong. Issei's clawed hand glowed purple as he used his right arm and slashed at Wukong, but the Monkey King easily dodged the attack as his eyes glowed goldenly. Sun Wukong. You're strong, but don't think I'm out yet. In an instant, the demon swung his staff to Issei's right arm, and the impact from it literally slashed the brown-haired boy's arm off. This shocked Issei and Drake as the arm flew through the air before landing a few feet away from the two. Drake. Master. Wukong smirked. Issei forgot the most important rule of battle: never underestimate your opponent. However, to his surprise, the human before him wasn't screaming in pain and agony. How was this possible? His arm was literally blown off his body and he doesn't even care. Hell, even Drake was surprised by this. When anyone loses a limb, their first instinct is to scream in pain and agony. So why was that not happening now? Was Issei so used to pain that losing a limb simply doesn't fade him? Issei. You thinking losing a limb hurts? Issei gritted his teeth as he glared at the Monkey King. His once brown eyes had now changed to bright purple. This shocked the demon. This boy was no mere human. He wasn't a supernatural creature either. He was something much more than even a god. Issei. Try having your heart broken and left to die bleeding out. There was no denying it. Wukong now knew what his opponent was. Issei Haidu was like him, someone who wasn't afraid of death. He was a monster. The grin grew on the demon's face. His blood was boiling at this point. This was exactly what he was looking for, the battle he so desired. Sun Wukong. You're like me. You're a man who's not afraid of death. You're a monster just like me. Issei Haidu, I acknowledge you as my strongest rival. Sun Wukong's strongest rival is not something that Issei would have expected the monkey demon to say. In fact, he never thought he would truly survive this long against him. Sure, Wukong might be holding back a tremendous ton, but even then, he could still level an entire mountain with one punch. A small amount of pride filled Issei. Looks like it isn't just pure luck that helps him defeat all the challenges he has come across so far. That was good. Issei wanted to prove to himself that it was because of his skills and not luck. Issei. Thanks, but this is the end, Drake. Wukong's eyes widened. He totally forgot about the heavenly dragon. He quickly turned only to be greeted by Drake's massive fist heading toward him. The monkey demon was able to dodge the attack, but the force of the attack launched Issei into the air. Sun Wukong watched his rival fly through the air as the sound of thunder roared and lightning raced through the sky. Issei smirked as he did something that shocked Wukong even more. Using his only remaining hand, he reached out and grabbed a fucking lightning bolt. The brown-haired boy actually grabbed something that only gods would be able to grab. It was like something out of an anime. The brown-haired boy actually grabbed something that only gods would be able to grab. It was like something out of an anime. Son Wukong? And no way. Issei smirked as he threw the lightning bolt at Wukong, who prepared himself to block the attack, but at that moment a very familiar tail wrapped around his arm. Son Wukong? Huh. He quickly looked in the direction and saw that Drake was preventing him from blocking by using his tail. The shadow dragon smirked as his eyes glowed green. Once again, the demon totally forgot that the dragon was even in the battle, since he was too focused on the fact that Issei grabbed lightning. Drake. You're not gonna block this one, Wukong. Son Wukong. Shit. I only focused on Haidu that I forgot about that dragon. He tried to free himself, but in the end, it was too late because the lightning bolt made contact with Wukong and electricity began to engulf him. A bright blue light illuminated the air for a few moments before it went away. When it did, it revealed Son Wukong, who was steaming and covered in bruises and marks. The Monkey King fell to one knee, which made Drake smirk. This was something that no one has ever done before. That was until Issei Haidu came around. Issei panted heavily as a small smirk grew on his face. Part of him can't believe it. He defeated Son Wukong, the great sage, equal to heaven. Issei. You lose, Wukong. Issei began falling toward the ground at high speed, but Drake then caught his master before he got halfway. The brown-haired boy panted heavily as he looked at the shadow dragon. At this point he has just accepted the fact that he brought back a dragon without his knowing. Issei. Thanks Drake. Drake. It's my pleasure, master. The former Welsh dragon placed his master on the ground as he approached Son Wukong, who simply laid on the ground, his body covering his marks and bruises. He stared at the monkey demon for a moment before he let out a small sigh like he knew that something was off, and so Issei kicked his foot. Issei. You can stop pretending now. Son Wukong stuck his tongue out in a teasing way, acting like he was dead. Issei. Seriously? He narrowed his eyes as a dark aura began covering Issei's body. Drake watched as he felt a shiver being sent down his non-existing body. You have activated skill. Bloodlust. Son Wukong felt the bloodlust pouring from Issei Haidu. He had to admit that he kinda felt a bit scared of the brown-haired boys, since he was already a monster not afraid of death. His eyes shot open as he quickly stood up, dusting himself off in the process. He didn't want to piss Issei off, especially since he doesn't seem to care that he only has one arm at the moment. Son Wukong. Okay. Okay. I'm up. I'm up. Just then, all of the wounds that the Monkey King had on him instantly disappeared, most likely because of his regeneration. Issei felt a bit annoyed by this, since that meant he could have done that any time during the whole battle. Issei. You could have won, you could have healed yourself during the fight. Son Wukong. I could have, but where's the fun in that? Issei. Yeah, I guess you're right. Just then, another Issei walked over to the brown-haired boy and handed him his arm that was blown off by Wukong. The Monkey King looked at the other one and was confused now. Did he fight a clone or did he fight the original? Son Wukong. Issei. What? Son Wukong. Did I fight a clone or the real you? Issei. Nope, you fought the real me. That is only an illusion from the Ring of Loki. The illusion gave a P symbol as it faded from existence. Wukong only blinked, not sure if he should be surprised or not. He really should, since he had faced and seen weirder things in the past before becoming omnipotent, omnipresent, and omniscient. Son Wukong. Huh. Issei rolled his eyes. Just then the armor that he wore had finally disappeared, now that the time limit was now over. But then a screen appeared before him, showing his stats. Name. Issei Haidu. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. Conqueror of Adversity, +1. Level. 51. Health points HP. 645 12,045. Magic MP. 959 1369. Fatigue. 89. Strength STR. 67, +20. Vitality Vit. 61. Agility Agile. 61, +20. Intelligence Int. 62, +25. Sense. 61, +20. Available points. 0. Physical damage reduction. 20%, +15. Issei. Fucking hell, he really did a number on me. Son Wukong. That battle was really fun. Issei smiled slightly. Issei. Yeah, it was indeed. He then looked over at Drake. The former heavenly dragon remained standing still and silent as he awaited his master's command. Issei. You can go now, Drake, I'll talk with you later. The dragon bowed to the brown-haired boy, surprising the Monkey King once again. He still can't believe that this is the same dragon that he once fought in the past. Back then he and the monkey demon clashed and ended up in a tie. Wukong thought that Drake would be his strongest rival, but turns out that he was now replaced by something even stronger. As the shadow dragon vanished, Issei let out a sigh and sat on the rocky ground, placing his blown-off arm next to him. Sun Wukong sat down next to the brown-haired boy and smiled. Issei. So, who won? You? Me? Or do we call it a draw? Sun Wukong. Let's call it a draw. Issei. Sounds good to me. Issei held his hand out to Wukong, giving him a gentle smile. Issei. Friends. Wukong smiled and accepted the handshake. Sun Wukong. Friends. The two smiled at each other as a screen appeared before Issei once again. You have completed the secret quest. Befriend the monkey. Issei. Another secret quest. Damn, talk about random. Level up. Level up. Level up. Level up. Level up. Issei. Holy shit. I leveled up 5 times. Sun Wukong. Well Haidu, I better get going because my wives will nag my ass off. Issei. Wait, you got wives? Sun Wukong. I'm married to 2 and one of them is my adoptive sister. Issei raised an eyebrow, he never thought he would hear something like that coming from Sun Wukong of all people. But it's his life and Issei has no part in any of it. Issei. Welp, sigh around Wukong. The Monkey King smiled at the brown-haired boy. Sun Wukong. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll see each other again soon. Issei chuckled as he watched the monkey demon take off with immense speed, causing a gust of wind to wash over Issei, who had to cover his face with his only good arm. When he uncovered Wukong was gone, Issei sighed as he looked at his arm. Issei. Better get this reattached. He stood up and started to walk away, but as he soon came to a stop as he just realized something very important. This was the second time he just realized something very important, top tier important. Issei. Wait, how the fuck do I get back home? Chapter 18. Surprise. Third person POV. Man, that sure was a fun time. Currently, Azazel, the leader of the fallen angels, was at his quote-unquote home, which was residing within the small town of Kuo. No one knows about the house besides Azazel himself, hell not even his second-in-command knows about it. The reason for the house in the first place is also unknown, but maybe he has it to keep an eye on the fallen angels that came to the town without telling him. It's very possible that is the case, since Azazel had received rumors that a few fallen angels decided to head off somewhere without proper authorization. However, strange enough Azazel has not seen any sign of the Rouge fallen angels within Kuo, hell he can't even sense them. This has led him to theorize 2 possible solutions on why that is. The first and probably most obvious one is that the 2 devil heirs that reside within the town must have killed them. He was in devil territory, which could start another great war between the 3 factions if he did anything out of line. And yet, he has not received anything from the 4 great satans, demanding to know why some of his fallens were in Kuo. So that idea goes out the window. He has another theory, but he sure hopes that he is wrong about it, since when he arrived he sensed something. Something very familiar, a presence that he has not felt since the Great War. An old friend. Azazel sat on his couch, staring at his ceiling as he sighed to himself. He has had an eventful day or rather night today, it was quite fun to hang out with Miki Haidu. She sure knew how to have a long conversation. When he asked her questions, oh boy, she wouldn't stop spilling the beans. For some reason, she looked like she was drunk, which was weird since they were only drinking coffee. Maybe she was simply full of too much energy. Any intelligent person knows that if you have too much energy, then it could lead to either crashing or lack of sleep. Azazel hopes that isn't the case for Mickey. She already has a lot on her plate, so the last thing she would want is to fix her sleep schedule. Azazel. Man, what a woman. Indeed. Azazel jumped out of his seat as he quickly took a defensive stance and looked in the direction where the voice came from, but when he saw who it was he simply sighed in annoyance. Azazel. Will you stop that? Standing within Azazel's doorway which led to his kitchen, chuckling was a handsome and muscular middle-aged man with grey eyes, shaggy black hair, and slight facial hair. Sorry, you old crow. You know I couldn't help myself. Azazel deadpanned at the man, who the hell was he calling old? He will have him know that he is in his prime right now, plus the man should take a look at himself for a change, he looked like a muscular hobo. Azazel. Look who's talking, you muscular hobo. The man chuckled at the nickname. Okay. That was a good one. Azazel sighed, he knew who this man is, and in fact, they were very close. Both are really good friends who have helped each other out for the last couple of years, but one day his buddy disappeared without a trace, and no one knew where he went, not even the man's own family knows. Yep, the man before the leader of the fallen angels was none other than the husband of Miki Haidu, the same one that Azazel has been hanging out with for a while now. But more on the important things at hand, he wonders why the hell has he just decided to show up after being gone for so long. The last time Azazel saw him, they were talking about the idea of 2 groups of beings that have existed before the beginning of the universe, 2 sides who faced each other in an endless war between light and darkness. But on the next day, he mysteriously disappeared, and no one knows why or how such a thing was possible. Azazel. So, why are you here? Oh? Am I not allowed to come to see my old friend? Azazel deadpanned. Azazel. You just up and left one day, and now you just decided to show up after so many years. The man sighed as he scratched the back of his head. He had a feeling that Azazel was gonna mention that. Yeah, I know, I'll explain everything to you when the time is right. Cause you are gonna want to write everything down. Azazel. Okay then. But why are you hanging out with my wife? When the man said that, Azazel fell silent. On the outside he was calm and collected, the same can't be said on the inside though. He was freaking fun out. There was a tiny voice in the back of his mind telling him that his old friend would ask that question, but he didn't listen. The leader of the fallen angels knew he was gonna be a dead man. Sure, he had witnessed and survived a great war alongside his comrades. He battled against both God and Lucifer at the same time, but both of those beings are like children compared to the wrath of the man before him. One wrong move, if he makes one wrong move, then he knew that he was gonna get sent flying through some walls or die for that matter, and he doesn't want that to happen. He still needs to lose his virginity to a beautiful woman. Azazel. Well, I didn't know it was your wife. The man didn't believe a single word that Azazel said. He didn't need to be a psychic to know that. Plus he was making it obvious with the way he was stuttering. If he truly didn't know, then he would be simply speaking normally. The man sighed as he looked down at the leader of the fallen, one of his eyes glowing with a menacing aura. Don't lie to me, old friend. Azazel gulped silently. Only one thing was going through his mind right now, and that was Azazel. Meanwhile with Issei. Issei sighed to himself as he finally arrived back at his home. He was currently sitting on Drake's back as the massive shadow dragon hovered above his master's home. He started to rub the bridge of his nose as he looked at his arm, which was now back where it belonged. Good thing that he had a spare status effect recovery on hand, because if he didn't, he would have had to explain to his mother why he only has one arm. The brown-haired boy still can't believe he had just faced Sun Wukong, one of the strongest beings in the entire universe. Sure, their battle may have ended in a draw, but the fact that he actually survived against him was a major achievement. But no one will even know that he had actually faced a Monkey King, not even Riaz will, since she and her peerage weren't there to see the fight. Speaking of which, Issei hopes that whatever she and the others were doing, he hoped that they were alright. He wasn't saying that they were weak or something, but he can't help but feel like that they weren't gonna be able to beat whatever opponent they were facing. Hell, Issei was only able to quote-unquote beat Sun Wukong because of the S-rank god item he took from Anubis and the assistance from Drake. Which was also on the latter's mind. How the hell did he even get a massive dragon as a shadow soldier? The last time he checked, he never slayed a dragon. Sure, Issei had killed numerous things such as werewolves, giant spider, giant snake, knights, mages, and even giant centipedes. But he has never killed a dragon before, so this has felt him totally confused right about now. Suddenly, something came to Issei's mind. What if Drake was his sacred gear? Riaz told him that Yuma, or whatever her name was, killed him because he had a sacred gear in his possession. He'll have to ask the shadow dragon about it. He needs to know the answer to this mind-breaking question. Drake. My liege, we have arrived at your residence and we haven't wasted any time. Issei smiled. Issei. Thank you, Drake. With that, Issei jumped off his shadow soldier's shoulder and landed on the ground without breaking any of his bones. That probably caused Drake to get as low as he could, but not enough to the point that he would accidentally destroy any houses beneath him. He looked up at the massive dragon. He'll ask him if he was his sacred gear or not when they get inside his bedroom. For now, he will just have him remain within his shadow with his other soldiers. Issei. Return to my shadow. I have some questions for you when we get to my bedroom. Drake nodded his head as he vanished from existence and returned to Issei's shadow. The brown-haired boy smiled as he turned toward the front door and approached it. He grabbed the doorknob and opened the door, walked inside his home, and closed the door behind him when he did. Issei sighed as he walked past the living room, but he soon stopped himself as he looked inside and noticed something laying on the couch, which was none other than Issei's own mother. Vicky Haidu was sleeping soundly on the couch, snuggling her head into the pillows that were on the furniture. Issei couldn't help but facepalm at his mother's action. He left her a note telling them to get some sleep and not stay up too late like she always does. He feels like he should just wake her up and tell her that he's back from his time with his friends, though he wasn't going to for two reasons. The first one is that she has to be tired, so it would be best to wait until the morning to speak with her. The second reason was that he was also tired. Not only did he do the job change quest, but he also had to face none other than Sun fucking Wukong. Yes, he had some help, but Issei had to do most of the work since the monkey demon wanted to fight him. Also, if Issei recalled correctly, he was the only one who had their arm blown off by one of the strongest beings in the universe. Issei sighed as he smiled at his mother. Issei. Have a good sleep, Mom. I'll see you in the morning. With that, Issei began to make his way toward his bedroom and leave his mother where she was. He was exhausted and knew that things were only getting started. He knows that there will be more stronger opponents in the future. The latter wasn't sure when or how they will come at him. It didn't matter, he had to be prepared for when it did occur. The floor beneath him creaked as he walked to his bedroom door. He grabbed the doorknob and opened it up. When he did that, the brown-haired boy was greeted by none other than Yoruichi leaping into his arms. This surprised Issei at first since he wasn't expecting it, but he soon chuckled a little. Issei. Hey girl, it's good to see you too. Irichi. Meow. Issei smiled as he placed the black cat on the ground and closed the door behind him, rubbing the back of his sore neck. Issei made his way to his bed and lay down on it. Irichi was about to jump up to her master, but then Drake's shadowy head rose from his master's shadow and growled at the black feline. Drake. Why are you here? Issei. Huh? Drake, what are you doing? Irichi hissed at Drake, and the former heavenly dragon growled at the black cat with hatred in his glowing purple eyes. Drake. Why are you in my liege's home? Tell me. Now. Issei. Drake, what the hell are you saw? Irichi. My business with your master is my own, Drake. Silence filled the bedroom as Issei slowly turned his head toward Irichi, his eyes widening in complete and utter shock from what he had just heard. His cat talked, his fucking cat just talked right now. The brown-haired boy hoped that his battle with Sun Wukong didn't cause him to go crazy. Actually, that can't be the case, since he would have gone crazy ages ago by now. Plus he is allied with devils, a devil heir, and he got killed by a fallen angel who broke his heart. Yeah, the chances of him going crazy are basically 0% right now. Issei. Did Irichi just? The black feline sighed. Irichi, yes Issei. I speak and I am sure this is a surprise to you. Issei. Oh, you think? Only one thing was going through his mind right now, was Irichi an enemy, or was she an ally? Issei was leaning more toward ally since she had every chance to attack him during the time he found her and now, plus the system wasn't giving him any sort of urgent or emergency quest, and if he recalls correctly it did it when that fallen angel with the fedora tried to kill him. Issei sighed as he sat up in his head and looked at Irichi, the head of Drake floating next to the brown-haired boy. Issei. So, who the hell are you? The black cat chuckled. Irichi. Well for starters, my actual name is in fact Irichi. This surprised Issei, he came up with that name, and turns out it was her actual name. Wow, either Issei was secretly psychic without his knowing, or he was simply just lucky to guess her name. Probably lucky, like he always is. He has had enough of winning with pure luck, he needs to start taking these tougher opponents seriously. He didn't with Igris, and he got his ass kicked by the knight, he did with Sun Wukong, and he still nearly died if it wasn't for Drake showing up to save the day. Issei. Well, that was lucky. But anyways, whatever are you? Irichi smirked at the brown-haired boy. Irichi. You really wanna know? You might be shocked. Issei couldn't help but deadpan at the black feline before him, with the amount of shit he had just been through he was sure he could handle whatever it was. Issei. Show me. Irichi. Okay, you asked for this. And so, Issei watched as steam started to rise off Irichi. This confused the latter at first as he wondered what the hell she was doing, was she using some sort of power? Was she transforming? Just what the hell was she doing? Though, Issei didn't have to wait long since he soon saw Irichi change into something else, something that shocked him to the core. Because standing before him right now was a slender and well-endowed woman of average height. She had dark skin, golden eyes, and black hair which was around waist length. But that wasn't the most shocking part, no what that was is the fact that she was currently standing in front of Issei completely naked. Irichi looked at Issei and smiled at him. Irichi. So? What do you think? Issei fell silent as he simply stared with a crimson blush beginning to crawl onto his cheeks. He has seen many beautiful young and quote-unquote old women. Like his own mother was older than him and she had the appearance of a teenager who wouldn't stare at her and blush. But back to the matter at hand, Issei just couldn't help but stare at the beautiful woman before him only able to say two words. Issei. You're hot. Chapter 19. The talk, the dream, and the surprise. Third person Pav. Issei. You're hot. Issei soon realized what he had just said and his face became redder. Irichi giggled at the brown-haired boy's reaction as she also had a small blush that crawled upon her face. She wasn't really surprised by the boy's words since she had been called many things over a couple of years, beautiful, hot, sexy, and hell she was even called adorable one time. However, out of all of those times she can't help but feel happy that it was Issei who said that to her. Maybe it was because he took her in when he found her, or rather him finding her in her feline form. Sure there were other very nice people, but Irichi recalls that they all had a darkness inside of them. Issei is probably no different, no one is truly pure-hearted. Everyone and she means everyone has a darkness within them, but she can't sense his darkness, and that is what is strange. The boy also possesses a very strange power that she isn't sure about, it was something that she has not sensed before. She'll have to keep an eye on him and learn more about him. Irichi. Thank you, you're not so bad yourself. Issei looked away, embarrassed by the fact that he told a beautiful woman that she was hot right to her face. He had a feeling that if his mother ever discovered that, she would be pulling his ear for weeks. Greg growled at Irichi. Greg. Now that you have revealed your true form, explain why you are here. Irichi. The reason why I'm here is my own, I don't have to explain anything to you, dragon. The former Welsh dragon growled at the former black feline. He didn't care that she was basically disrespecting him, since he was no longer the Welsh dragon of domination. What he didn't like though was the fact that she was in his liege's presence, who knows what she could have been planning. Greg. You know, most dragons would kill you for disrespecting them but not me. This gained both Issei and Yoruichi's attention as they wondered what Drake was talking about. The brown-haired boy was still new to the supernatural world, so his knowledge of dragons was very limited. But if he were narrow everything down, he guesses that dragons are very powerful beings who are both feared and respected by other supernatural races. Issei also guesses that there are some dragons who are extremely arrogant because of their strength, so he gets the feeling if he faces one it was probably gonna say that Issei was weak and it was mighty or whatever. Yoruichi crossed her arms as she raised an eyebrow. Yoruichi. And why are you not? Greg. I am no longer the Welsh dragon, I am merely a soldier in my liege's eternal army. Issei. Actually, that is what I have been wondering. Issei turned his attention to the floating shadow head that floated next to him. He was gonna ask this anyway, so he might as well do it now while he has the chance. Issei. Who even are you, Drake? Because last time I checked I never killed a dragon. After Issei said the word who even are you, the former heavenly dragon felt like he was just been stabbed in the heart. He didn't blame his liege for not knowing about him, since he hasn't really seen a dragon before, but those words kin to hurt. Drake. That's understandable, my liege, I am known as Drake Y. Gotch. I was known as the Welsh dragon of domination, one of the two heavenly dragons who are capable of killing gods. Issei's eyes widen in shock, a dragon with the power to kill gods. The brown-haired boy can't help but imagine how terrifying Drake was when he was alive, his power must have made him invincible. Sure, everything had a weakness and a limit, but to think that he now possesses a shadow soldier that was once able to kill gods is both amazing and terrifying. Issei. Wow, you must have been very powerful, Drake. Drake chuckled and smirked. Drake. Indeed I was, there was only one being who was on par with me. Issei. Who was that? Drake. His name was Albion, the white dragon of supremacy. Issei. So, he was another dragon that was able to kill gods. Drake nodded his shadowy head, this made Issei take a moment to think. Drake was able to kill gods, and if this Albion was on par with him, Issei can't help but wonder if they both of them were friends or rivals. Well, that isn't really any of Issei's business, he can't help but feel curious, since this was the first time he has ever seen or rather met a dragon in person. Well, if he could really say it like that, since Drake wasn't really alive right now. Issei. Amazing, but why are you a shadow? Drake sighed. Drake. When my rival and I fought, we accidentally ended up on the battlefield of the Great War. Yoruichi. I remember the stories, the three factions had to put their differences aside to take you both down. This surprised Issei, he knew that the angels, fallen angels, and devils stopped their war. But he didn't think they would work together for a common cause, especially if that cause was to take down two dragons with the power to kill gods. So Issei was correct, even godly level beings like Drake and Albion are able to die. But it must have been difficult for the three factions to work together since they were once enemies. Issei. Wow, it must have been one hell of a battle. Drake. Indeed it was, my liege. I can recall every single moment of the battle. It was a day that no one would ever forget, the day that the three factions worked together. This was a lot of information to take in and wrap his head around, but Issei fully understood everything that was being told to him. This was a lot of information to take in and wrap his head around, but Issei fully understood everything that was being told to him. The brown-haired boy basically has a very powerful shadow soldier that could kill gods, talk about an anime moment. Actually, now that Issei thinks about it carefully, maybe this was the reason why gods like Loki and Hades are keeping an eye on him. Sure, the Greek god of the underworld must still not be pleased with Cerberus's death, but maybe they can sense Drake's presence. But wait, if that was the case, then how come Rias didn't say anything about him? Issei didn't need to be told the rest of the story to understand the main thing. Drake was Issei's sacred gear. The former Welsh dragon was the very thing that Yuma killed him over, the item that she told him to blame God about. Why couldn't Rias sense Drake though? Surely she would have been able to sense him since he was nowhere near the job change quest level when he first spoke to Rias, unless there was something blocking her ability. Issei gets the feeling that the system took the spot and became his sacred gear in a way, yet keeping his original one, which was Drake, within the boy's soul. No, that makes no sense. Why would the system do something like that? It doesn't have a mind of its own, or does it? There were still things that Issei has yet to discover about the system. It is very possible that instead of being an actual game screen it could be alive, or yet just something that some other being was watching Issei through. So many questions were flooding his brain. Why the hell did this have to be so confusing? Yoruichi. You know well, having Issei know more about the supernatural. There's a tiny problem. Issei looked at Yoruichi, completely used to the fact that she was now standing naked in front of him. Issei. And what's that? The former black feline deadpanned and gestured to herself, reminding Issei that he was staring at a naked woman and wasn't becoming a blushing and stuttering mess like she was expecting him to be. While she hasn't shown anyone else her transformation, she has wandered about in her human form with clothes of course. But every single time a male hell or even a female sees her, they end up becoming a blushing mess at the sight of her. Sure, Issei did react how she expected at first. But after talking to Drake, he basically doesn't care anymore. Irichi. I'm naked and you're not giving a shit. Am I not pretty? The brown-haired boy blushed slightly as scratched his cheek. Yoruichi was pretty, probably more beautiful than any girl he would ever see, but he was not his old perverted self anymore. He has changed so much in the last couple of weeks. It probably caused of the system that he no longer feels any perverted thoughts, but the whole not reacting to Yoruichi's naked body was easy to answer. Issei. You are beautiful, Yoruichi. Easily prettier than any girl from my school. The former black feline blushed slightly, surprised by Issei's words. This was something unexpected. She has been told that she was pretty and beautiful numerous times. Why is she reacting like this? Yoruichi. Then, why aren't you a blushing mess? Issei. That simple, I'm already seen a woman's naked body. This surprised Yoruichi, making her wonder who the woman was. She knew that it wasn't anyone from his school. If that was the case, then he would have said girl and Issei didn't say that. That just left the question, who was the woman? There was only one other woman in Issei's personal life, and that was none other than. Her eyes widened as the pieces came together. Yoruichi. It was your mother. Issei sighed and scratched the back of his head. This was gonna be one hell of a story. Issei. It's one hell of a story. Yoruichi. It can't be that bad. Issei rolled his eyes and shook his head at the former black feline. She was correct, it wasn't that bad, but it was a surprise to Issei. Issei. You see, a while back. Before I got thrown into the supernatural world, I was just an ordinary human who lived with his mother. Yoruichi. Okay. Issei. Cause of this, one day when I was heading to the bathroom. The door opened and out came my named mother. Oh, and before you ask, yes, I was naked too. This surprised Yoruichi. She knew that it had to be the boy's mother. However, she was not expecting them both to see each other naked. That had to be embarrassing. Though, there was a small voice in the back of Yoruichi's mind that wondered what would have happened if Issei and his mother weren't blood related. The former black feline wasn't known to say such a thing, which is why she won't say anything. But she was curious. The best and probably the most defiant answer was that it wouldn't happen even if they weren't related by blood. However, the idea will always burn brightly within her fantasies. Actually, she could make a story out of that. Oh boy, she can already tell that so many girls are gonna feel hot and wet at the idea. Yoruichi. I see, and you both just decided not to speak about it. Issei nodded his head. Issei. Yeah, we will never speak of it. Yoruichi. Okay then, sounds good to me then. Turning his head to his alarm clock, Issei saw that it was nearly 1 o'clock in the morning, much to his annoyance. He was hoping that this talk with Yoruichi wouldn't take more than a few minutes at most, but looks like he was wrong about that. Issei. Well, it was fun talking to you, Yoruichi. But I need to get some sleep. Dreg. Don't worry, my liege. I shall take care of things while you slumber. Issei. Thanks, Dreg. I owe you. But that both the former Welsh dragon and the black feline watched as Issei laid down on his bed, slowly closing his eyes as he drifted off to his slumber. It didn't take long for him to fall asleep, since he was already tired from not only the job change quest, but the battle with Sun Wukong as well. But the brown-haired boy sleeping, Dreg turned his attention to Yoruichi, who was still standing in her naked human form. Dreg. So, how long are you gonna keep your true identity a secret for? Yoruichi looked away and crossed her arms. Yoruichi. I don't know what you're talking about. Dreg. Don't take me for a fool, I know who you are. You think I didn't know about your birth before I was sealed away into the boosted gear? Yoruichi had to admit she was impressed by Dreg. She didn't think that he would have any idea who she really was, but turns out that was wrong. The former black feline was born before the Welsh dragon was sealed into the sacred gear, as well as his arch-rival, but not many other supernatural beings know of her existence. Hell, not even gods like the Greek or the Egyptian know. She shouldn't really expect anything less from the mighty heavenly dragon of domination. He truly was something else entirely. Yoruichi. I shouldn't expect anything less from you, Dreg. Dreg. Tell me, daughter of. Yoruichi. Please, just call me Yoruichi. I rather that than hear his name again. Dreg. Very well then, tell me Yoruichi, what are you planning to do with my liege? Yoruichi stared down at the sleeping Issei Haidu, a small smile growing across her face, as he was snoozing away without a care in the world. She came to Kuo to get away from her problems, to escape from him and start a new life on her own. However, after meeting Issei that night she can't help but feel attached to him now. Maybe it was cause of how caring he was to her and to his own mother. Either way, she knows one thing for certain: she will assist Issei however she can and stand by his side as he grows stronger with each passing day. Yoruichi. That simple, Dreg. Greg raised an eyebrow as Yoruichi smiled at the floating shadowy dragon head. Yoruichi. I'm sticking around, after all he is my owner. Greg fell silently for a moment as he thought to himself, but that didn't last long as he smiled at the black-haired woman. Greg. Very well then, Yoruichi. I shall accept that unless you do anything to harm my liege, then not even the dragon gods and the beast of the apocalypse will save you from my wrath. Yoruichi gulped a little as she nodded her head, making a mental note not to piss off the former Welsh dragon. Sure, she was powerful and all, but against Drake, that is basically asking for your own death. Anyways, with that, Drake disappeared from sight. This caused Yoruichi to let out a sigh of relief. Time skip brought to you by people telling me to watch fate and me ignoring them. When Issei opened his eyes, they felt heavy and he found it kind of hard to breathe. But it wasn't to the point where he was suffocating, he could still breathe, but it was just strange. He found himself in a very strange place, definitely not his bedroom or the penalty zone, that's for certain, since if he was in that hellhole he would be dead by now. Plus, even if he was sent there, Drake would probably be decimating those giant centipedes with ease. Like, the dragon was a general rank which makes him even stronger than Igris, and the former blood red commander kicked Issei's ass. Speaking of him, Issei needs to actually use him and not just leave him and the other shadow soldiers he has in well his shadow. But for now, that wasn't important since Issei wasn't even sure if he was on Earth anymore. Standing up, he saw that he was in what appeared to be a very dark field similar to a battlefield almost. This confused a brown-haired boy. Was this the work of the system? Was it trying to show him something within his dream? Actually, was this even a dream? It could be something else. A memory. A vision. Either way, Issei knew that this was a serious situation and he had to take it as such. If he was his perverted self, then he would probe no, he would have complained about there being no breasts. Issei knew himself long enough to know that if there was nothing about breasts in his dreams, then not even implanting information within his brain would get him to care. He truly was a loser back then, no wonder he was hated by all the girls in the school. Thinking about it right now is making Issei pity himself. All this time his mother thought that it was his friends who prevented him from getting a girlfriend. In reality, it was only himself. Issei sighed and shook his head. He didn't have time for this. He needed to stay focused on the matter at hand, figuring out why the system brought him here. Issei. Okay, this has to be the work of the system, but the question is, why did it take me here? Suddenly, Issei sensed something behind him which caused him to turn around, and when he did he was greeted by several beings who were cloaked in darkness. From what could see, there were probably 9 in total, and they all were different sizes from each other. However, they all looked humanoid in appearance, so that was good to know. Though, 2 seemed to have some sort of fire or strange energy on top of their heads, which Issei is guessing is their hair. Purple and white flame energy hair. The brown-haired boy never thought he would ever see the day something like that would happen. But getting back on track, he found it weird that he couldn't see their appearances. Though this didn't mean that he couldn't try and guess from the way they are shaped if he had to say all of them were males, except for one of them that appeared to have tentacles. Issei almost wanted to laugh, a single female in a group of 8 males. Oh, if that wasn't a sign of some sort of porno, then he didn't know what would be. Chuckling slightly, Issei's attention turned to the one with the purple flames on his head. He wasn't sure why, but he felt something strange coming from him. He didn't understand the feeling fully, but it was like who or whatever that figure is, was trying to speak to him. Maybe it was the previous user of the system, actually maybe the very beings before him were the previous users of the system. Issei. Are these the previous users? Issei was conflicted now. A part of him thinks that the figures were the previous users, while another part of him is telling him that they weren't. He wasn't sure what to believe, he never did in the first place, since he possesses zero knowledge about the system. It uses him, and he uses it. That is how it works. That is how it shall always work. Until the day he dies. Narrowing his eyes, Issei slowly approached the figure with the purple flame hair. With each step he took, he found it harder to breathe and even walk. It was like there was an aura with the same pressure as the fucking ocean washing over his body. He felt like he was being crushed alive. However, he wasn't gonna be denied. He wanted answers, and he was damned if he was gonna be denied what he rightfully deserves. Gritting his teeth, Issei's eyes started to glow blue before switching to purple. He slowly began pushing through the pressure around him. Each step he took he could feel more and more building up, yet he doesn't care about that. There was gonna be a change. Issei wasn't afraid of death. He faced death numerous times already, and you know what happened. He bested it every single time. Issei. I won't be denied. The dark aura started to cover his body as he reached his hand out to the figure, just inches away from touching it. However, before he could finish his reach, before he could receive the answers he has been longing for, something happened. Beep. 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 Issei's eyes shot open as he quickly sat up in his bed with his arm reached out, panting heavily as sweat started to run down his face and body. His gaze turned from in front of him to the very thing that prevented him from the answers he deserved, his fucking alarm clock. Issei. You. Gritting his teeth, Issei turned off his alarm clock before it made any more noise. His ears were already ringing, the last thing he wanted was a bloody headache. With that done, Issei wanted to break the alarm clock. He just wanted to summon either Drag or Igris and eliminate the fucking thing from the universe, but decided not to because it wasn't its fault, it was his own. Issei stared at his bedroom ground for a moment before moving to the hand, the one that nearly touched the figure. He was still weak, and that is why he missed his chance. He still needed to grow stronger than he already was. Just a little more than he should possess the answers that he has been seeking for so long now, the answers to why he has the system. Why did it choose him? Why he was special. Issei. I was so close to the answers, yet they were still out of my reach. A small smirk grew on Issei's face as one of his eyes started to glow purple. Within his shadow, his soldiers could feel their liege's determination, and it fueled them. They shall help their master achieve his goal, no matter what or how long it takes. They shall rise above any and all challenges, they were not afraid of death, they shall become it. Iruchi, who turned back into her black cat form, sleeping on the end of the bed, secretly opened one of her eyes and stared at the brown-haired boy. Youruichi cat. What is this power? Just who are you, Issei Haidu? Issei stood up from his bed, and when he did he felt something downstairs, a familiar presence. It was a strange one, he couldn't really understand the presence whatsoever. Though it was one that he has sensed before, so this gives him a few ideas of who it could possibly be. But for starters, he can rule out Ria's, Sona, or either of their peerage, since it wasn't a demonic presence he was feeling. Actually, Issei hasn't met Sona's peerage yet, so that is something he was gonna need to do when he heads to Kuo, better make a mental note about that. He hoped it wasn't someone like Yuma, if it was then he would need to find a way to get her out without his mother getting hurt. However, he should check things out first and actually see who the person really is. Issei. Time to go. With that, Issei walked to his bedroom door and opened it. He made his way out with Yuruchi following closely behind, wondering where the brown-haired boy was off to in such a rush. She hasn't seen him like this before, so she was curious about what was going on downstairs. As they walked down the stairs, they heard the sound of laughter and talking. The first was definitely Issei's mother, and the other was a voice that Issei has heard before, but Yuruchi hasn't yet. Issei. No way, it can't be. When the boy and the black cat arrived at the kitchen, they saw Miki Haidu sitting at the table talking to someone, which caused Issei's eyes to widen in shock and surprise. The person was someone he never thought he would see again, none other than Sun fucking Wukong. The person was someone he never thought he would see again, none other than Sun fucking Wukong. Issei. You have got to be kidding me. Both Mickey and the monkey demon looked over at Issei and smiled when they saw him. Wukong then started waving at the boy. Sun Wukong, hey bro. Good to see you again. Iruchi's eyes widened as she was shocked by this turn of events. She wasn't expecting Sun Wukong to be here. Actually, she was 100% sure that even Issei wasn't expecting this to happen. Iruchi. Holy shit. It's him. It's that monkey king. Are Issei friends with him or something? What the hell is the story on this? Meanwhile, Drake was secretly watching everything from Issei's shadow. His glowing green eyes, but barely unseen by the eyes of those in the kitchen, he had to say that he as well is surprised by this turn of events. He didn't think that he would see the monkey again for a while, but he and his liege did promise that they would see each other again soon enough. It was almost hilarious actually. In fact, Drake nearly burst out laughing but decided not to, since that could give himself away. Drake. Looks like my liege has become friends with the one equal to the heavens. You certainly have a strange boy, but what would you do when he discovers his heritage? What is your plan then, old friend? Chapter 20. Tangel with a phoenix. Third person Pav. To say that Issei Haidu wasn't surprised would be a complete lie. In fact, he was completely surprised by the fact that Sun fucking Wukong was currently inside his home. He knew that the person had to be someone familiar to him, since the presence was just that, familiar. However, he was expecting it to be someone like Sona or maybe even Ria's, but then again, he didn't sense any demonic aura, so that idea was out the window. The only other people that were familiar to Issei were either Yuma or whatever her name was, and finally, Sun Wukong. Sweat ran down Issei's forehead as he was kinda concerned. Why the hell was the Monkey King inside his home? What was the purpose of coming here? Issei. Why is he here? Mickey. Did you sleep well, Issei? Issei. Yeah, Mom. What are you doing? Mickey. Oh, I am just talking with your friend here. His friend? Did Issei really think of Sun Wukong as a friend? Like, sure they were sort of like rivals in a way. But he didn't think that they would ever be friends, he was only human, while Wukong was a demon who could go up against even the strongest beings in the universe. Issei. My friend. Sun Wukong stood up from the table and walked over, wrapping his arm around the brown-haired boy's neck and smiling at him. Sun Wukong. Yep. We're very close friends, right buddy? Issei. Suddenly, Sun Wukong used telepathy and spoke to Issei within his mind. Sun Wukong. Just go with it, and plus we became friends after our fight, remember? Issei. Okay, that's new. When the hell were you gonna oh yeah, your son Wukong. You make cartoon powers look real. Son Wukong. Exactly. Issei smiled slightly. Issei. Yeah, this is my new friend mom. Mickey smiled as she looked at the monkey demon. Mickey. It's very nice to meet you, Son Wukong. Oh, my name is Jin. Jin Mori, it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Haidu. This caused a brown-haired woman to smile back at Jin Mori. She was glad that her son was actually getting new friends and not sticking with those two perverted idiots that he used to hang out with. She swears the number of times she would see those three do something stupid made her want to slap the shit out of the trio. Mickey. Well, I'm gonna make some breakfast, would you like some, Mori? Son Wukong. I would love to. Thank you, ma'am. Mickey nodded as she made her way to the kitchen to make some breakfast for all three of them. As soon as she was out of sight, Son Wukong turned to Issei only to lose all of his colors as he saw the cold expression of the boy's face, both of his eyes glowing with a menacing purple aura. This was something that the Monkey King wasn't expecting at all. In fact, seeing the brown-haired boy's expression sent a shiver down the demon's spine, and once again that was something that never happens. He was Son Wukong, the one equal to the heavens, who could fight against nearly any opponent and win. Issei. Why are you here? Both Son Wukong and Yoruichi, who was still in her cat form, shivered at the boy's tone. Especially Yoruichi, she had never seen Issei like that before and she gets the feeling that this wasn't gonna be the last time she hears him speak like this. Son Wukong. I just wanted to come and see you. That's all. Issei. Issei could sense no eyes coming from the Monkey King, so he calmed down as the aura disappeared. He guessed there was no harm with the monkey demon being inside his home, it wasn't like he had any malicious intentions. The last time the two saw each other, Wukong announced that Issei was his strongest rival. The latter finds it ridiculous, since how could he be worthy of being the rival of one of the most powerful beings in the universe, he was only human. Not some god like the Buddha, Loki, or Hades. Speaking of those two, Issei needs to keep in mind that there is a chance that both Hades and Loki told the other gods of the pantheons, so the brown-haired boy better be ready for random gods like Zeus and Odin to show up without any question. Issei. Okay, I guess you being here is alright. Just try not to say anything about the supernatural. Son Wukong. Oh, so you're protecting her? I get it, Issei. Yes, and it's best if we don't tell her because I don't want no one to go after her. Wukong raised an eyebrow. Son Wukong. Why not? Issei. My mom doesn't know about it or about my power. I like to keep it that way. Son Wukong nodded his head in understanding. He respected Issei's decision of wanting to keep his mother in the dark. Sure, he knew that one day the boy will have to tell her about the supernatural. But if he told her now, it would only make her worry about her son. Issei. You know, you're lucky that I didn't summon Drager Igris to knock some sense into you. Son Wukong. I know. Issei sighed as he grabbed a chair and pulled it out a little, he then sat down on it as Yoruichi leaped onto his lap and lay down. This made the boy smile as he started patting the black feline, causing her to purr from the touch which nearly made Issei chuckle. However, he soon turned his attention back to Son Wukong, who decided to sit down next to the brown-haired boy. Issei. So why are you here? Shouldn't you be with your wives? Son Wukong. Well, in another part of the world, or dimension, or whatever was none other than the home of Son Wukong. The place where his wives were currently residing within, though it wasn't just them that were there. There was a boy no older than 2 or 3 with the same looks as Son Wukong. He was none other than Kenji Jin, Son Wukong's son. He was none other than Kenji Jin, Son Wukong's son. Yep, the mighty Wukong, the monkey demon, and the one equal to the heavens, was the father of a little boy. If anyone found out about this, they would be too shocked to even think of trying anything. No one expected Wukong to settle down and become a father. Hell, not even the Buddha would know about this, and he was the Buddha. And Kenji was heir to his father's throne, the next Monkey King. Now some may be wondering, who is Wukong's wife? Who in their right mind would want to be the wife of Son Wukong, the Monkey King? His first wife was a woman named Tang Sanzang. And the other was Dana Han, his adoptive sister. Why do I hear a guitar playing? As the saying goes, if she's not related, then she's safe to bang, and Son Wukong knew that very well, which was strange when one thinks about it, since all of his life he has only been known to hang around monkeys, the 2 demons and the stupid monk that he traveled with to the west. The Han was currently teaching Kenji. The Han. Kenji, what's 3 plus 3? Kenji thought about it for a moment before he held out his fingers, giving his mother the answer. The Han smiled at her son. The Han. That's correct, that's a very good job. The Han. So cute. Just then Tang Sanzang walked into the room, smiling as she also saw what Kenji had done and found it very adorable. When she did, she started to giggle at how cute the little boy was. She was a proud mother. Tang Sanzang. Adorable. The two then began wondering something very important, something that was very high on the list, above things like Kenji's school and whatnot, and that thing was where the fuck was their husband. They woke up this morning and saw that he wasn't in the bed with them. They originally thought he was cooking for them. But he wasn't in the kitchen either, so that just left the question. Where on earth was Sun Wukong? Back to the main character and his rival. Issei. You didn't leave a note. Sun Wukong smiled. Sun Wukong. Nope. Issei. Dumbus. Iruchi, who was listening to the story, sweat dropped from what she had just heard. Looks like the rumors she heard about Wukong were all wrong. They said he was an intelligent and crafty being who always had a plan for every situation before it even happened. Turns out he was just a complete idiot. Issei sighed and shook his head. Why did he agree to be the monkey demon's rival again? Oh yeah, probably cause if he didn't, then Wukong would literally end the brown-haired boy's entire existence with one swing from his staff. Issei. I don't think I could take Wukong on again even at my current level. Issei looked at Wukong. Issei. So you have a kid? Wukong smiled. Sun Wukong. Yep. He's a cute little fella. Issei then crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. Issei. How come you didn't mention him to me after our battle? He found that weird that the Monkey King never mentioned anything about a son. He did say that he had 2 wives but nothing about any sort of hair. That is what Issei finds weird. How could he have a child in such a short amount of time? Like he knew Wukong was basically a god but still. Sun Wukong. One word. Protection. Issei. Wait, so you literally had a child after you left me on that island? Sun Wukong. To be fair, you didn't ask for a ride back and I thought you knew how to get home. Issei sighed. Issei. You're lucky I had drag, but for real. You had a child after you left me? It had only been a day. Suddenly, Drake's shadowy head appeared next to the brown-haired boy, which caught Wukong by surprise because he wasn't expecting the former Welsh dragon to appear out of nowhere. Sun Wukong. Holy shit. Don't do that, Drake. Drake. No. The dragon looked at his master. Drake. My liege, it is very possible that the time and the place Wukong is currently residing within moves much differently than out here. This surprised Issei. He didn't know that such a thing was possible. However, he had to remember that this was Sun Wukong that he was talking about, so he basically makes the impossible possible. Issei. So you're saying time is different where he lives? Greg. Precisely. Issei. Interesting. The mere idea of a place where time moves differently sound like something out of a story, the ones where the main character becomes overpowered after like a trillion days in the dimension and only a single day in real life. However, Issei doubts that it would be much help for him since he levels up by either killing monsters or completing quests that the system gives him, so looks like any offer that Sun Wukong would give him to train is going out the window. Issei. That sucks. Just then a screen appeared before him, showing his stats. Name. Issei Haidu. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. Conqueror of Adversity, +1. Level. 56. Health points HP. 16,895 16,895. Magic MP. 1769 Fatigue. 0. Strength STR. 82, +20. Vitality Vit. 66. Agility Agile. 66, +20. Intelligence Int. 67, +25. Sense. 66, +20. Available points. 0. Physical damage reduction. 20%, +15. Issei had grown thanks to the 5 levels he obtained from the secret quest, but he knew that this wasn't enough. He needed to reach the max level if he was gonna face off against beings who were at the level of gods. Sure, maybe Sun Wukong would stick around and act more like support, but Issei prefers to solo level to gain levels. Sun Wukong. You okay? This snapped Issei out of his thoughts as he looked at the Monkey King. That was a first. He doesn't think anyone has snapped him out of his own thoughts before. Issei. Huh? Oh, yeah. Just thinking is all. Sun Wukong. If you say yes. Issei. Actually, can I have your opinion on something? This gained Sun Wukong's attention. Whatever Issei needed to tell him must be very important. Sun Wukong. What's up? Issei sighed. This has been on Issei's mind ever since it happened, and he had to ask someone like Wukong, who was a part of the supernatural world, for his opinion. Issei. Okay, here's what happened. And so, the brown-haired boy explained to the Monkey King everything that happened between him and Riaz, the incident of her begging him to take her virginity, the maid showing up and dropping the bomb about Riaz being a part of some sort of forced marriage. Wukong remained silent as he listened to the boy's explanation, taking in everything that Issei told him. He had to say that this was a first for him, he hasn't handled this kind of situation before. Issei. So? What do you think? Sun Wukong. I have no words to say, but I haven't been in this kind of situation before. Issei. Well, what do you think I should do? Wukong could see that Issei deeply cared about Ria's Gremory, while the demon didn't have much of an opinion of the Gremory family since, well, that's a story for another time. But what he can say is that, if he was in Issei's position and something like that happened to those he cared about, the Monkey King would do everything in his power to save the person. No one should be forced to marry someone that they do not love. Sun Wukong smiled. Sun Wukong, do you care about this Ria's girl? Do you? Issei blushed slightly as he scratched his cheek. Yuruchi perked up when she saw the brown-haired boy's blush. For some reason, she felt kind of jealous when Wukong said that Issei cared about Ria's gremmery. Issei. Well, I don't know much about her or anything about her family. The look I saw in her eyes, the desperation to escape from that marriage, the pleading, it caused a pain in my chest. Sun Wukong. Do you love her? Issei's face became deep red at this point as he slowly nods. Issei. Why yes. Just then, Issei blinked at what he had just said. He saw Wukong smirk and he did not like that. Why the hell did he say that? He wasn't in love, sure Ria's was cute and all but he barely knew her. Issei. Wait, no. She's only a friend. Sun Wukong. You sure? Issei. Yes, I barely know her. So how could I love her? Sun Wukong chuckled before he smiled and patted Issei's shoulder. Sun Wukong. Well, if do you or not follow your heart and do what you think is right. Issei. Do what I think is right. Issei began to think about what Wukong said. What does he think about the situation Ria's was in? He didn't like it at all. In fact, he wanted to help Ria's be free from this forced marriage. No one deserves to marry someone they don't love. Sure, Issei hasn't met the man she was gonna marry. But the boy could tell that whoever it was, the crimson red-haired devil girl, was gonna thank Issei for freeing her. Issei. Alright, I'll do what I think is right. Hearing that caused the monkey demon to smile, but then Mickey came back into the room, and right before she did, Drake quickly vanished faster than the author's love life. Both Wukong and Issei were glad that they weren't doing anything out of the ordinary, though they were surprised by the sight of the food that the brown-haired woman was carrying. Both Wukong and Issei were glad that they weren't doing anything out of the ordinary, though they were surprised by the sight of the food that the brown-haired woman was carrying. Sun Wukong. Whoa. The monkey demon stared at the food with stars in his eyes as Issei chuckled. This was one of his mother's specials. She doesn't normally make such a thing since it takes a lot of ingredients to make, but she probably thinks that this was a special occasion. Nikki. I hope you two are hungry. Wukong nearly drooled at the sight of the food. He had never seen such beautiful food before in his entire immortal life. Sure, his wives made really good food as well, but Mickey Haidu took the bloody cake and made it into a masterpiece. Sun Wukong. Issei, your mother is the best. Issei chuckled. Issei. Thanks, Jin. Mickey smiled. She was glad that the two were really close. She placed the plates of food on the table, the scent filled the two noses, and it nearly made their mouths turn into waterfalls. However, Issei was able to control himself, since this wasn't anything out of the ordinary since he was born to this woman. The three began to eat, and when Wukong took his first bite, his eyes widened in surprise, as this food was amazing like his wife's food. Mickey. So, Jin. What do you think? Sun Wukong. This is amazing, Haidu. Mickey. I'm glad you like it, would you like more? Sun Wukong. Yes, please. Mickey giggled as she stood up from the table. She then started to make her way toward the kitchen once again to make some more breakfast for the two. Issei rolled his eyes, but soon noticed that something was off about his mother, and that got his attention. Maybe he was imagining things, but his mother looked a bit pale to Issei, and that kinda concerned the boy. He hoped that his mother was alright. She was perfectly fine the last time he saw her. Maybe she was just a little sleep deprived, or maybe she hasn't been eating much, but both of those made no sense because she just made all this delicious food in front of him and Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong looked at the brown-haired boy and raised an eyebrow. Sun Wukong. You okay? Issei. Why yeah. Why wouldn't I be? Sun Wukong. You're stuttering. Issei. I'm fine. Wukong deadpanned. He could tell that Issei was anything but fine. He didn't need to be omnipotent, omnipresent, or omniscient to know this. In fact, anyone could tell that something was up with the brown-haired boy. Sun Wukong. Hey. You alright? Issei. He looked at the Monkey King. Issei. Yeah, I'm fine. Sun Wukong. Then why do you look concerned about something? Issei sighed. Issei. It's fine. Just then, Mickey walked back in cause she heard the noise. Mickey. Is everything alright, boys? Issei looked at his mother and gave her a reassuring smile. Issei. Yeah, Mom. We're okay. Mickey. Oh, alright then. The brown-haired woman was about to walk back into the kitchen, but she soon dropped the spoon she was using to stir the food. She then started coughing a little, which sent alarms out in Issei's brain, making him very concerned about his mother's mental health. Sun Wukong noticed as well and was also concerned like Issei. He may not know Mickey as much as Issei, but he could tell that she was a good woman. Issei. Mom, are you okay? Mickey coughing slowly died down as she looked back at her son, smiling a little to try and calm him down. The last thing she wanted is Issei freaking out over the small things like her coughing, plus it was only a cough. Nothing more. Issei shook his head, what the hell was wrong with him? That was his mother for God's sake, was there still a bit of his old perverted self within him? No, if that was the case that the system would have said something since the last time, it told him not to go back to his old perverted ways, or else he would be punished. Mickey? I'm okay, sweetie. Nothing to worry about. Issei could tell that she was lying, his mother wasn't the best liar. In fact, he doubts that she could lie about anything. Which is why Issei was even more concerned, he needs to know this stuff, or else he can't help his mom. Whatever was happening to her may or may not be dangerous. Sure, there's a chance it's just a mere cough and nothing more. But there is also the chance it's something else entirely, after all Issei is now a part of the supernatural world. Issei? Are you sure? Nikki nodded her head as she picked up the spoon. Nikki? Yep. Perfectly fine. He sighs and decides to question it later. For now, he needs to figure out what he's gonna do with the situation with Rias and this forced marriage. Like, he doesn't even know where or when this wedding is gonna happen. He could ask Yoruchi to get some info since she was basically a ninja, but he was worried she might get caught and get killed or worse tortured. Maybe he can find something at the occult research club, maybe there was some sort of teleportation page or summoning thing that he could use to bring either Rias or maybe even that maid to the human world. He was hoping there was one at the occult research club building. Issei narrowed his eyes, glowing a faint purple color. Issei. It's time to go save Rias. Time skip. Both Issei and Sun Wukong were making their way toward Kuo Academy, their target was the occult research club. Issei informed the Monkey King of his plan to see if he could find something at the club room that would assist him in freeing Rias. Wukong decided to tag along with his rival, since he owed the brown-haired boy, because he was the one who randomly snatched him from his home when he was about to get some shut-eye. Issei. You know you don't have to come with me. Issei's gaze turned to Wukong who was walking next to him, he was wearing nothing too special. Except for a black hoodie that almost made his body look like it was a black abyss, Issei feels like he is gonna grow an attachment to the color black down the line. Except for a black hoodie that almost made his body look like it was a black abyss, Issei feels like he is gonna grow an attachment to the color black down the line. Sun Wukong smiled. Sun Wukong. Hey, I owe you after I randomly snatched you from your home out of nowhere, so it's fair I help. Issei chuckled. Issei. Heh, well that is true. The two continued their march toward the school, as they were Wukong took the chance to see the areas around Kuo, and he had to say. For a little town in the middle of nowhere, it wasn't a bad place. In fact, it almost looked like the perfect area to raise a small family. Sun Wukong. This is not a bad place. I would have settled down here with my wives and kid. Issei. Heh, if you do then I'm sure my mom would love to meet your wives. Sun Wukong chuckled, he had to admit that Issei had a point there. Mickey gave off the vibes of someone who would want to be friends, but speaking of the brown-haired woman the Monkey King, feels like he should chat with Issei about what happened. Sun Wukong. Suo, has your mom ever been sick before? Issei had a feeling that Wukong would bring that up, after all he did notice it as well. Issei. No, she hasn't and that's what concerns me. This could just be a mere cough or it's something completely war. Sun Wukong. Whoa. Calm down Issei. You're freaking out. Issei panted a little, the demon was right he was freaking out. But how could he not freak out? It was his mother he was talking about, the person who basically raised him ever since his father disappeared all those years ago. But then, Issei sighed as he placed a hand on his own face. Issei. Why you are right, I'm freaking over something that could be completely normal. Sun Wukong. Have you freak out B? Issei. Yeah, I haven't it makes me wonder something. Sun Wukong raised an eyebrow. Sun Wukong. And that is? Issei. Have I really changed since the incident or am I still my old self? Hearing this got Wukong's attention, incident. Old self. This filled the monkey demon with curiosity, the boy knew a lot about him like who didn't, there was a book about him. However, the more he thinks about it Sun Wukong knows absolutely nothing about Issei Haidu, and he refuses to just use his godly powers to figure that out. He wants to hear it from the source itself, to hear the truth. Sun Wukong. What do you mean old self? Issei. Oh, I guess you wouldn't know. Issei sighed as he faced Wukong, and he was glad he didn't use his god powers to look through his memories, meaning Issei could really trust him. Issei. You see before I became what I am now. I was merely a normal teenage boy who lived with his mother who worked very hard to pay ends meet, while she struggled with all that I dreamt of becoming the harem king and obtaining many girls. This resulted in me not having any friends or any girlfriends, cause every girl hated me. Sun Wukong. Wait, don't tell me. Issei nodded. Issei. That's right your rival was once a massive pervert. Wukong's jaw nearly struck the ground, his newest rival was once a pervert. Okay, if this was the work of Buddha or some other god, then he swore he will get his revenge on them for making fun of him. Issei. However, that all changed when I met her. Sun Wukong. Her? Issei. She went by the name Yuma. She asked me to be her boyfriend, and I know what you're thinking, why would she ask him on a date if he barely knows her? My perverted personality blinded me from that question, and of course, I said yes. Sun Wukong. I see, but what about the date? Issei sighed, this part was gonna be hard on himself. He doesn't want to remember the painful memories, even though he has changed since that day. The phantom pains still remain, and boy, they weren't holding back. Issei. I did everything for her. I took her shopping, I took her to get ice cream, and I took her to the aquarium. We had the most wonderful time. I wanted this to be it. Maybe if she was the one, she will be the first of the many girls I would love. But, Wukong raised an eyebrow. Sun Wukong. But, Issei sighed. Issei. She betrayed me. She turned out to be a fallen angel. She only dated me because I had a sacred gear in my possession. Before I knew it, she stabbed me in the gut and left me to die slowly, painfully, and heartbroken. Sun Wukong was silent as he didn't know what to say, but one thing was for certain: he was not happy that his rival was left to die heartbroken and had been taken for a fool. Wukong feared death, which is what made him seek out ways to become immortal, and he gained it in many ways. He ate peaches of immortality, pills of immortality, erased his name from the book of life and death, drank heavenly wine, and became immortal. He was taught the secrets of immortality, ate some magical fruit, and was even thrown into a furnace that burned away his mortality. And yet, despite all of that, despite all the things he has been through over the last couple of centuries, every single fight the demon had been a part of, he couldn't imagine the pain and agony that Issei went through. Sun Wukong. Haidu, I am so sorry that you went through that. Issei. It's fine, it's my fault. He looked down. Issei. Thanks my perverted attitude, I made a fool of myself. Sun Wukong placed a hand on the brown-haired boy's shoulder, making him look at the monkey demon. Sun Wukong. Don't blame yourself, you had no idea even if you were perverted or not. Hell, if I was in your shoes I wouldn't have known as well. Issei. Yeah, but you're a demon with the powers to rival gods, and I'm only human. Sun Wukong. A human that survived and was gifted with a power that no one has ever seen. Issei couldn't help but chuckle. Issei. Okay, you have a point there. Sun Wukong. So, what happened next after you were supposedly killed? Issei. Let's just say, I was saved, but when I woke up I was in a hospital, with the power I now have. Sun Wukong. I see. Sun Wukong has a feeling that Issei wasn't gonna be telling him what or how he obtained his power anytime soon. Hell, Issei himself doesn't even know how he got the power he has. There is still so much that he has yet to learn about the system, so many questions. Who created it? Who gave it to him? Why did they give it to him? Were there others before him? Was it something that Issei could only use? Are there other users? There were so many questions that he knew he couldn't answer alone. He was gonna need to do what he has been doing so far. Use the system and allow the system to use him. Someday he shall achieve the answer he is searching for. For now, it was time to stay focused because both he and Sun Wukong had arrived at their destination, Kuo Academy. Issei. Sun Wukong, welcome to Kuo Academy. Sun Wukong let out a whistle as he crossed his arms, he had to say. The school was pretty impressive, but then again he hasn't even seen a school. Sun Wukong. Impressive. Issei. Yeah, a once all-girls school that soon turned co-ed and allowed boys to join. Though we aren't really liked by the opposite gender, I think they are starting to like me with my new look. Sun Wukong. I see. With that, both Issei and Wukong made their way through the front gate, and when they did all eyes were on them. Girl 1. Who's that with Haidu? Girl 2. No idea, but he looks cute. Girl 3. Cute. More like handsome. The monkey demon sweat dropped, he saw what Issei was talking about. The brown-haired boy chuckled as he pats the one equal to the heavens, he understood the pain. Sun Wukong. Thanks the heavens, my wives aren't here, otherwise they would scare these girls for life. Issei chuckled. Boy 1. Damn it. Not another pretty boy. Boy 2. He's gonna take all the babes. Boy 3. There go my chances of getting a girlfriend. Issei. And that's the male population. The monkey demon deadpanned. Sun Wukong. They have no respect for women. Issei. You got that right. The two decided to head toward the occult research club. As they were walking, Sun Wukong was getting eyed by loads of female students. But there were a few that didn't act like the rest, though that didn't really matter since the Monkey King was feeling a bit uncomfortable. Once again, he was so glad that his wives weren't here. They would have killed all those girls from just glancing at him, which he hopes they won't do since he was starting to like the town of Kuo. He could see why the Gremory family and the Citri family have their heirs in charge of such a place. It was in the middle of nowhere and was far from any sort of city. Issei. The two stopped and turned to see Mitsuda and Motohama. Issei. Oh, hey you two. What's up? Sun Wukong looked at Issei. Sun Wukong. Who are they? Issei. Oh, these are my friends. Mitsuda. Yo, Issei. Who's the new guy? Issei. Oh, this is Jin Mori. He's a new student, so I'm just showing him around. Wukong nearly wanted to laugh, he didn't need to go to school. But he had to admit that Issei's idea of having him as a new student was very smart. Any regular school wouldn't let someone other than their students on the property, so using the whole new student card is a very smart move. Motohama. I have a question for you, Mr.Jin. Wukong raised an eyebrow, wondering what the question was. Sun Wukong. And that is. Motohama. Do you watch porn? This snapped Sun Wukong. Did he seriously ask him that? He has 2 wives and he loves them for who they are, not for their bodies. Issei sighed. Issei. Really guys, did you have to ask him that? Mitsuda. It's an important question, Issei. Wukong's eyes twitched as he used telepathy on Issei. Sun Wukong. How are you still friends with these guys after you went through a change? Issei. Don't ask, just tell them you haven't yet and we'll get going. Wukong sighed mentally as he hoped his son doesn't be a pervert, finds friends that are not perverts like these two, and find a good lover in the future. And boy, how right he was in the future that his son did find good friends and will have multiple lovers. Sun Wukong. No, I haven't watched it. Mitsuda. Aw, that sucks. Motohama. Maybe later we can help. Why? Issei. Okay boys, that's enough. I gotta show Jin around the place before class starts. With that, both Issei and Sun Wukong turned and started to walk off. The Monkey King was glad that they weren't a part of that conversation anymore. If he had to spend any more time there he would have broken something or rather someone. Issei could tell that Wukong was not happy, which was a surprise, since the monkey demon wasn't known to care about such little things. But he guesses that having 2 wives and a child can change a person, or rather a being, in many different ways. Issei pat Wukong's shoulder. Issei. Sorry you had to say that, Wukong. Sun Wukong. It's fine, I'm just surprised that I wasn't happy about it since I was known not to care about such little things. Issei. That's what I was thinking, your son Wukong. You've experienced so many things that could top that, but I guess having wives and a child can change anyone, even a demon with godly powers. The Monkey King chuckled. Sun Wukong. Yeah, I guess you're right. And so, the 2 boys made their way toward the Occult Research Club, which didn't take long since they were already heading to the building. When they arrived, Wukong was kinda surprised by the idea of the clubroom being inside an old school building. But he didn't get to think much cause they had to stay focused on the task at hand, finding something to help Ria's Gremory. They entered the building and made it to the main room. Issei. Okay, let's check around. Wukong nodded as the 2 began to look around the room. Issei knew that there was something within the clubroom, there had to be something. He didn't care what it was, he just needed to find something that could assist him in his journey, or rather his quest in saving Ria's from this forced marriage. Sun Wukong. Yo, Haidu. I found something. This gained Issei's attention as he looked over at the monkey demon and saw him holding a piece of paper. This reminded Issei of the time he met a strange cosplay girl that gave him a piece of paper with a symbol on it. In fact, Issei wondered something. He stood up and walked over to his rival. When he did, the brown-haired boy took the piece of paper and looked at it. He was greeted by the same symbol that he saw on the other piece of paper before he went on his date with Yuma, but that just left the question, was this a teleportation circle or something else? Issei. Good work, but this still leaves us a question. Sun Wukong raised an eyebrow. Sun Wukong. And what is that? Issei. Is this a teleportation circle or just a flyer? The Monkey King chuckled as he crossed his arms, grinning. Sun Wukong. That, my friend, is a teleportation circle to the underworld. And from what the writing says under the circle, it goes to the very place that Ria's Gremory is getting married. Issei. Wait, you can read it? Sun Wukong. Yeah. Can you not? Issei shook his head. Issei. No. That was a surprise to Wukong. He thought that his rival was capable of reading the flyer. He doesn't really blame him since he was still human after all, and that was alright. Sun Wukong. Well, the flyer says this: you have been invited to the marriage between Ria's Gremory and Riser Phoenix, where Riser shall make the beautiful Ria's his bride. Really? Saying his name twice. Issei. What a dick. Sun Wukong. Yep. Issei. Who the hell talks in the third person? Wukong shrugged his shoulders. Issei looked at the flyer with a serious expression. He now had a way to get to Ria's location, and he also knows the name of the one she was being forced to marry, though that last name was leaving the brown-haired boy puzzled. Phoenix. He wondered if it was a way to say something else. What other supernatural race that has something similar to Issei's eyes widened as he put the pieces together. This was not gonna be good, since he now has a feeling that the crimson red-haired devil girl's soon-to-be husband had the powers of a phoenix. Issei. Well, shit, this isn't good. Sun Wukong. What's wrong? Issei. Just hearing that name looks like this Riser dude has the power of a phoenix. Sun Wukong. Wait, does he have regeneration powers? Issei shrugged his shoulders. Issei. It's very possible. The only devils I know are Ria's, her peerage, and Sona. Sun Wukong. I see. Issei, this one is gonna be a tough opponent. Issei. What do you mean? Sun Wukong. I heard in some rumors that members of the Phoenix clan have the ability to regenerate instantly. Regeneration, a very powerful ability that is very overpowered. Issei knew that from all the anime and manga he had watched read growing up, regeneration could basically make someone immortal, and fighting someone like that is the last thing that Issei wants to do without a plan. However, he knew that he wouldn't have any other choice, this was something that he had to do. He promised himself that he would save Rias from this forced marriage, and he wasn't just gonna break that promise, that wasn't in his nature. Issei wasn't afraid of dying, he has faced death numerous times already. The brown-haired boy has made so many mistakes in the past, sure they seem minor but that didn't matter. Although he will not be denied this once chance to save someone who is calling for help, Issei didn't care who he had to fight. Someone with the power of a phoenix. The devil. God. The dragon. It didn't matter, he will take on any and all challenges face to face. Issei. I see, well, I'm still going to fight him. I don't care if he has regeneration or immortality. I made a promise to Rias and I intend to keep it. Wukong smiled at Issei's dignity, bravery, and determination. That was one of the many reasons why the Monkey King respected Issei and considered him his rival. Issei. I am not afraid. As Issei held the flyer, a purple aura started to cover his body, similar to the one that he had when both he and Wukong faced each other. Issei. My scars are my war paint. A shiver was sent down the Monkey King's spine as he could feel the ground beneath him shake a little. Within Issei's shadow his soldiers could hear his call. His determination, they all were roaring with the same determination as their liege. They were gonna show this riser phoenix, no, they were gonna show the entire supernatural world why they shall rise above anyone and become the king. Issei. I rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Sun Wukong chuckled as he smiled at the brown-haired boy. Sun Wukong. Issei, you are the bravest and most honorable warrior I have ever met in my entire life. Issei. Thanks. Suddenly, the flyer started to glow a bright orange color which gained both Issei and Sun Wukong's attention. They guessed that it was reacting to the boy's aura, but before they could say or do anything though they vanished from the occult research club and found themselves in a place that no man, woman, or child dreams of going to. The underworld. Sun Wukong. Well, looks like we're here. Issei. This is hell. I thought there would be flames, caves and devils and all that. Sun Wukong. You know there's 9 hells, right? Issei. Really? What are the names? Sun Wukong. I believe it's limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, anger, heresy, violence, fraud, and finally treachery. Issei crossed his arms. Issei. And what layer are we in now? Wukong looked around and looked back at Issei. Issei deadpanned. Wukong basically had no idea what the layer was. Even though Issei himself didn't know, he was just gonna say that they were in the first layer and call it a day. The brown-haired boy let out a small sigh and shake his head. He soon noticed something not too far from the duo. It was a massive building that appeared to have a lot of fire. Hell, there were trees out the front with fire as leaves. Issei. Trees with fire as the leaves. Sun Wukong. I have seen many things in my immortal life, never have I seen that before. Issei. And I feel like that won't be the end of it. They approached the gates, but the guards stood in the way. GUARD number 1. What business do you have here? Issei narrowed his eyes. Issei. My business isn't with you two, move or else. GUARD number 2. Do you have an invitation to the wedding? If you don't, then you need to leave. Issei grew an annoyed look. The purple aura started to cover the boy's body as his eyes started to glow purple, sending shivers down the guard's spine, which was much to Sun Wukong's amusement. Issei. Wukong. The Monkey King looked at his rival as he summoned his 2 daggers out of thin air. Issei. You wanna help me clear the way? A small grin grew on the demon's face as he summoned his staff. He came with Issei to help him get Rias back, and he was a demon of his word. Sure, he could be doing some other things like being at home with his wives and child, however, he could tell that this was gonna be very fun. Sun Wukong. With pleasure, my friend. Issei. Let's go, then. The 2 let out battle cries and charged at the devil guards. The guards charged toward Issei and Wukong, which was their biggest mistake, because even though they were heavily trained guards, their level of combat was nothing compared to Issei and the Monkey Kings. Hell, they were weaker than the fallen angel that tried to kill Issei when he fought the giant arachnid that one time. With one swing of his dagger, Issei slashed one of the guards' heads off. Blood splattered everywhere as the body fell limp and collapsed to the ground. The second guard's eyes were filled with fear as he had no idea what to say or do at the very moment. Wukong took this chance and quickly uppercut the second into the air before grabbing his leg and throwing him into the ground very hard. This resulted in the guard being knocked out cold. Issei. Nice one, Sun Wukong. Thanks. Now, let's go and save Rias. Issei nodded his head as both he and Wukong made their way into the Phoenix house. As they did, they were greeted by some more guards. GUARD number 1. Halt. Issei deadpanned. Issei. You know what's funny? Sun Wukong. What? Issei. Whenever a guard shouts halt, they fully expect the person to halt. But do they really? Sun Wukong chuckled and looked at his rival. Sun Wukong. Nope. The two smirked as they charged toward the guards and began to take down every single one, no matter what they did they fell like the cannon fodder they were. The Monkey King swung his staff and struck the guards in the face, chest, foot, head, ribs, and even in the balls. Issei wasn't better than his demon rival, he was doing the same amount of damage, and the only difference was the ones that fought Issei were actually dying. Though, the brown-haired boy was a bit upset that he wasn't gaining any levels from killing these guards. It looks like his theory really is correct, he only gains experience from the monsters that come from the dungeons. That was annoying, but it wasn't so bad if he thought about it, since it meant that he won't turn into someone like Kirito from Sword Art Online. As the two were attacking, they were advancing to the nearest room which Issei hoped was the one where the wedding was taking place. He wanted to get out of hell quickly, since he wasn't sure what would happen to him if he remained within hell. After all, he was only human while those around him weren't. The large bulky guard drops threw a punch at Issei. Sun Wukong was about to step in and block the attack for his friend. However, he didn't need to do much since he saw Issei step to the side and punches him across the jaw before grabbing the sides of his face and kicking him into a wall. Issei. The fuck was that meant to be? Wukong mentally facepalmed at himself and his stupidity because he forgot that Issei was so powerful that he could stand a chance against a god like the Monkey King and no other low-life supernatural creature, no matter how strong they are, they can't even lay a scratch on his rival. After a while, all the guards that came at the duo were either knocked out or killed. Issei had to admit that those devils were very weak, but he knew that there were still stronger ones to see. They walked down the hallway until they came across a very large door that must have led to a very important room. Issei might not be able to do this, but Sun Wukong could sense multiple beings on the other side of the door. Issei. So, chances of this being where the wedding is? Sun Wukong. I sense a lot of people in there so yes. Issei. Well then, you want to do the honor? The demon smirked. Sun Wukong. Yes. And so, Issei smirked and he took a step back, allowing the Monkey King to walk forward. He had a feeling that he was gonna one-shot the door. He reeled in his foot. Issei. Oh boy, here we go. Boom. Wukong kicked the door down. Issei blinked as he saw the massive door be sent flying. One again Sun Wukong could have easily negative diff the brown-haired boy during their battle if he wanted to. He was glad that he was his friend now, but Issei is still gonna need some time to wrap his head around the fact that both he and the demon are friends. Issei. Well, that was something. Wukong chuckled. Sun Wukong. Thanks. With that, both Issei and Wukong made their way into the room. They stepped through the smoke, and when they did they were greeted by the sight of many devils, some that Issei knew such as Sona, Kaneko, Kiba, Akeno, Rias who was in a wedding dress, and a tall and handsome young man in his early 20s, with short blonde hair and dark blue eyes. They stepped through the smoke, and when they did they were greeted by the sight of many devils, some that Issei knew such as Sona, Kaneko, Kiba, Akeno, Rias who was in a wedding dress, and a tall and handsome young man in his early 20s with short. Issei narrowed his eyes at the sight of the man. He guessed that he is the one known as Riser Phoenix, the one that Rias is being forced to marry. Riser? Who dares interrupt Riser's great speech? Rias? Issei. Is that you? Issei chuckled and waved at Rias. Issei, hey Rias. I'm a bit heartbroken, why didn't you invite me to the party? Wukong chuckled as he rested his staff on his shoulders. He had a feeling that Issei could take things from here. For now, the Monkey King will watch things play out and step in if his rival needs any assistance. Riser? Who are you, lowly peasant? Issei. Oh, look it's talking. You want a pumpkin, chicken? You want a pumpkin? Riser. Do you think I'm an actual chicken? Issei. Have a pumpkin. Issei threw a large pumpkin at Riser's face. This shocked the devils, and Sun Wukong started laughing his ass off. Two devils who have yet to step into the fight were watching things play out, and one of them, a familiar silver-haired maid, was surprised by Issei showing up. Rafia. This low-born actually came to save Rias from the marriage. Rias. Issei. Why are you here? The brown-haired boy smiled at the crimson-red-haired devil girl. The sight of said smile caused her to blush slightly, since Issei's new look gave him a handsome appearance. Issei. Isn't it obvious? I'm here to set you free. This snapped Rias back into reality as she stared at Issei in shock. Rias. Set me free. Issei. Yep, I promised myself that I would free you from this forced marriage. I intend to keep that promise. Hearing this made Ria's heart skip a beat as she held it. Rias. He's doing all of this for me. Riser, who rubbed his head after being hit by a pumpkin, heard what Issei said and gritted his teeth in anger. Riser. You think you can just walk into Riser's wedding and steal Riser's wife? Issei deadpanned at the blonde-haired man. Was he seriously talking in the third person? Issei. Can you talk normally or is that a personality disorder? Riser. Silence you lowly peasant. Who do you think you are? Issei glared at Riser. A purple aura slowly started to cover his body which caused the entire room to fall silent and shivers were sent down the spines of everyone. If there was one thing that Issei hated more than someone monologuing like a typical villain you see in an anime, it would be someone calling anyone a lowly peasant. How dare they believe that since they got more money than everyone, they were superior to them. Well, they should just wake up to reality because that is not how the world works, and Issei doesn't care if the people in the room were devils or even gods for that matter. Issei. The name's Issei Haidu. I'm the guy who's gonna kick your ass and save Ria's riser. Oh. You think you can beat the great Riss? Another pumpkin was thrown at him by Issei, and the guests, the Gremory Peerage and Sona were thinking. Where is he getting these pumpkins from? Well, Wukong laughed his ass off again. Issei was grinning like an idiot, he was so glad that the system allowed him to purchase pumpkins from the shop. He wasn't sure if he was gonna need them in the future, so he might as well just throw them at someone. Issei. Headshot. Smoke was coming out of Riser's head as the pumpkin melted away, and he glared angrily at Issei. Riser. Will you stop that? Issei. How about no? Riser gritted his teeth in anger, how dare this lowly peasant make a fool out of him. He was the great Riser Phoenix, heir to the Phoenix household, and the strongest there ever was. No one has ever defeated him and no one ever will, anyone who stands in his way shall be burned to ash. Well, this is amusing to watch. Everyone turned to see a man with red hair and blue eyes like Ria's wearing massive shoulder pads and a cape. Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei. What the hell is up with those shoulder pads? Ria's brother. This surprised Issei as he looked at the two and saw the similarities. Issei. That's her brother. Riser. My lord, what is the meaning of this? Well, this wasn't my idea. But I have to say that I am liking where this is going. Sun Wukong watched from the sidelines with his arms crossed, he knew who that man was. He was known as Surzich's Gremory, one of the four great Satans. The current Devil King and a very powerful opponent, the Gremory family, have been known to wield the power of destruction. Surzich's, on the other hand, possesses a form unlike any other, he found a way to turn his entire being into destruction itself. Probably why he has earned the title Lord of Destruction. Surzich turned to Issei and smiled. Surzich. You must be Issei Haidu, my sister's friend, correct? Issei nodded his head. Issei. Yeah, you must be the top banana down here. Surzich's chuckled. Surzich's. The top banana, that's a good one. This surprised every devil here, Issei just called one of the great four Satans a top banana in a casual tone. But what was more of a surprise is that Surzich's was okay with that nickname, in fact, the way he was speaking sounded like he was gonna keep that nickname. Braphia sighed mentally. Braphia, oh for Lucifer's sake Surzich's. Surzich. Anyways, I like to thank you for helping my sister ever since she revealed the supernatural to you. Issei casually waved it off. Issei. I wouldn't say she introduced me to the supernatural, but I was surprised that a beautiful girl like her turned out to be a devil. Ria's blush deeply red like the color of her hair. Surzich's chuckled as a Kaneko, and surprisingly a blonde-haired girl wearing a pink dress glared at the crimson red-haired devil girl. Kiba could feel their malice and decided to move away from them before he dies, he doesn't want to get involved with any Yandirs. Surzich's. I see, well then, tell me why do you want to stop this marriage? Issei stared into Surzich's eyes, and when he did they started to glow purple. This caused the Devil King's eyes to widen slightly because he swore he could see Issei as something or rather someone else, but he couldn't tell what though since it was only for a few seconds. Surzich's. What was that? Was I the only one who saw that? Issei. I saw the desperation in her eyes when she came to me, I heard the pleading in her tone, it caused me much pain to think that some beautiful woman is being forced to marry some dirtbag. Riser. Hey. Issei. Shut it, chicken little anyways, no woman should be forced to do that whether they are human, angel, devil, fallen, dragon, or even goddess. They have a right to choose who they wish to marry and not be forced by those who are supposed to be on their side. Surzich was silent at first as he stared at the boy, though he soon grew a smile from Issei's answer. Surzich. A wise answer, Issei. Sun Wukong was smiling as well, Issei was once a perverted teenage boy, and now he was merely a being that was shrouded in mystery. Also, looks like he was achieving the goal that the monkey kind desires his son to complete, and he was doing it without his knowledge. Many of the females in the room's faces were bright red from the brown-haired boy's words, those who were married, and those who were not, never in their entire life, have they ever heard anything that moved their hearts. Riser. My lord, you can't be serious that he's right. Surzich. Are you saying that I'm stupid? That Issei gave a wise answer. Riser flinched as sweat began to run down his forehead, he took a step back when he saw the crimson red-haired devilman's cold stare. Riser. And no, my lord. I'm just saying that. Riser turned his attention to Issei. Riser. If this boy wants to take what belongs to Riser, he will need to prove himself by facing Riser in a duel. Surzich. Riser realized what he said, and he sweats in fear that Surzich absolutely doesn't tolerate his sister being an object that belongs to someone. The Devil King turned to Issei. Surzich. Do you accept his challenge, Issei? A small grin formed on Issei's face as he twirled his two daggers in his hands. Issei. Bring it on. The boy tilted his head a little as his grin grew, his eyes basically burning with a purple aura. Well, that spooked everything a little. What took the entire cake and crushed it was the fact that they could see a massive dragon eyeball behind Issei Hyod, and it was glaring at them all. Well, that spooked everything a little. What took the entire cake and crushed it was the fact that they could see a massive dragon eyeball behind Issei Hyod, and it was glaring at them all. This resulted in everyone including Surziches and Sun Wukong to lose all of their colors. The monkey demon had to admit that his rival was one scary motherfucker. Though he wasn't at the same level of scariness as his two wives when they were angry, that didn't mean that Issei was dead last. Nope, the brown-haired boy was easily number 2 on the scary list. Sun Wukong. Why the fuck is my rival so scary? Riser. Be very, well. I'll make you regret coming here, low life. Issei. And I'll make you regret your existence. Small time skip. Currently, both Issei and Riser were standing in an arena that they were teleported to thanks to the magic of Surziches. Riser wanted to make Issei pay for ruining his wedding, so he secretly told one of his servants to broadcast this to every supernatural being in the entire world. So literally everyone was watching, every devil, angel, fallen, dragon, yokai, god, and more were watching the battle between Riser Phoenix and Issei Hyod. Because of the obvious disadvantage, everyone bets that Riser would win this since he has the power of a phoenix, which means he was immortal. Riser. Get ready to lose. Another pumpkin was thrown at him. Riser. Will you stop that? Issei. Not until you drop dead. Riser gritted his teeth. Riser. Riser will end this here. He summoned a fireball and threw it at Issei, who easily dodged the attack and charged toward the blonde, but before he could land a direct hit on Riser. The phoenix air leaped into the air and sprouted some fiery wings from his back. Issei was about to summon either Drake or Igris, but then a screen appeared before him. Urgent quest. Tangle with a phoenix. You must defeat the fiery bird of immortality, prove yourself as a powerful being, and use your skills alone. Issei narrowed his eyes, the system was telling him to do this by himself. Not use one of his soldiers, well he was planning on keeping things a secret for a little while longer so he might as well. Riser. Take this mortal. He blasts a massive fireball at Issei. Thinking quickly, Issei threw one of his daggers to the side and used ruler's authority to pull himself toward the weapon which got him out of the way of Riser's attack. Just in the nick of time too, because the fireball struck the ground and caused a mini explosion which filled the arena with dust clouds. Once it cleared, Issei was nowhere to be found, and Riser smirked thinking he was dead, and oh boy how wrong he was. Issei leaped through the dust cloud and using Night Killer, he sliced Riser's left arm clean off, resulting in the blonde screaming in pain and agony. And to Riser and everyone's shock, the arm was slowly regenerating, and it would normally heal instantly. This gained Issei's attention, he fully expected Riser's arm to be regenerated back by now. However, it was taking longer than he originally believed. Issei. Oh, this is interesting. He looked at his dagger. Issei. This thing is only powerful against monsters with armor, yet it somehow is slowing down Chicken Little's power. Riser soon regenerated as he glared at the brown-haired boy. Riser. Riser shall make you pay for that. He summoned another fireball and threw it at the boy, though just like before Issei easily dodged the attack, much to Riser's annoyance. Riser. Stop moving. The blonde's arm started to be covered in flames as he unleashed a wave toward Issei, but Issei easily leaped over the wave of flames. Riser. Riser grows bored with this. Time for you to die, you low-class trash. Issei rolled his eyes as he looked up and saw Riser summon yet again another fireball, this one bigger than the last one. Riser. I will burn you to ash. Issei. Do you ever shut up? Riser. Riser will be the one to shut you up. Riser threw the fireball, Issei didn't dodge this time. In fact, he did the opposite, he charged toward the attack and leaped at it. His eyes glowed purple as he sliced the blonde-haired man's attack in half, surprising him, since no one in their right mind would do something like that. Everyone minus Wukong's jaw dropped as they saw no mortal in their life do that. Riaz. How did he do that? Bakeno. I'm not sure Riaz, but I do have to say. It was very cool. Haneko. Issei-senpai is amazing. Sona. He is. The females started to blush as they started to have their own fantasies about Issei Hyod, the boy who was once hated by every girl in Kuo Academy. Riser. This is impossible. Issei smirked. Issei. Oh, Chicken Little, I make the impossible possible. Riser growled and began to throw fireballs recklessly. Issei could tell that Riser was getting desperate, or rather the blonde was just being an idiot because the fireballs weren't even coming close to the brown-haired boy. Issei just deadpanned as he sighed to himself, so much for being worried about facing Riser, he could basically end this right here and now. And he could do it in one punch. Issei. This is just wasting my time. Shaking his head in disappointment, Issei threw his dagger and used his ruler's authority skill once again. He teleported to the dagger and punched the blonde-haired man in the face. Because his strength was so high it sent Riser flying into the ground, which resulted in a crater forming. Riser was knocked out cold due to the punch. Issei sighed in disappointment and looked at Riser with a look of pity, disappointment and disgust. Issei. Such a pit. Before Issei could finish his sentence, he felt something strike his back. However, it didn't feel like an attack, and so Issei looked behind him and saw that it was in fact Riaz herself hugging Issei. Issei. Riaz. What are yo? Issei soon stopped talking as he saw that Riaz was crying. Though they were tears of sadness, they were tears of joy and a smile of gratitude. Riaz, thank you Issei. You saved me. Issei fell silent as a small smile grew on his face. He then hugged back. He was happy that he could help such a beautiful girl. If his mother was forced to marry someone that she didn't like, he would do the same thing he had just done. He said it once and he'll say it again, no one deserves to be forced to marry someone they do not like. Issei, you're welcome Riaz. I'm glad that I could help you. The blonde-haired girl, who was Ravel Phoenix, the younger sister of Riser, landed and approached her older brother. She shook her head slightly and picked him up. Issei looked over at the little girl. Issei. Hey, sorry for knocking him out. Ravel. It's fine, I just hope he learns from his actions and changes into a better man. She turns to Riaz and bows. Ravel. I'm sorry for what my brother causing you trouble, Lady Riaz. Riaz stared at Ravel and gave her a gentle smile. Riaz. It's fine, Ravel. Please take care. Ravel nods and flies off, carrying her brother. As he watched Ravel fly off, she flew a bit too high and he got a glance at what she had underneath. The brown-haired boy's face went a little red as he saw Ravel's pink panties. Why the hell was the universe hating him? Issei. Seriously, first my mom's ass and now this. Issei sighed to himself as a screen appeared before him. You have completed the urgent quest. Angel with a phoenix. A small smile grew on Issei's face. He'll worry about the reward later. He's just happy that he made do with his promise. He saved Riaz, and that is all that matters. Sun Wukong came into the arena and approached his rival. Sun Wukong. Yo, Haidu. Nice job teaching that fried chicken a lesson. Issei smiled and gave the Monkey King a nod. Riaz. Issei. Issei. Yeah. Riaz then pointed at the Monkey King. Riaz. Who's this? Issei fell silent as he wondered if he should reveal the fact that he was friends with none other than Sun Wukong. Any smart person would say something else. However, the brown-haired boy knew that they will find out the truth eventually, so he might as well tell them now. Issei. That's my new friend and rival Sun Wukong. Silence, complete and total silence filled the air. No one dared to utter a word, hell not even Surziches himself spoke after hearing what Issei Haidu had just said. However, that silence didn't last forever because everyone. Wait. Issei. Ow, my ears, you know, I feel like I should have said oh no, then again that could lead to a meme. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.